Hello everyone and welcome. My name is Julia Mann. I am a professional network marketer, an actor and an EFT practitioner. And today I'm joined by Trish Tenn. Hi Trish.
Hello, lovely to be here.
Great to see you. So for those of you that don't know yet, Trish is a specialist exercise instructor and an inspirational speaker. But I just want you all to know that actually I do know Trish. In fact, we met over 20 years ago. And I actually remember at the time, Trish, thinking, wow, what a strong, powerful woman it is. Have you always been that way?
Have I always been that way? Yes, I think I have actually. Yeah, I was always hyperactive as a child, and my mum would always say, I never went to bed early. I've always had abundant energy. So I think it's my natural way of being.
Fabulous. Did your parents put much store in health and fitness?
No, not at all. Not really. No, they weren't particularly healthy or fit.
Okay, so what was your typical so neither of them exercised and you didn't have a particularly healthy diet as a child?
Well, I wouldn't say that. I mean, we used to go for walks as a family. We have just the bog standard English, 2 meat and a veg and two veg and meat. They didn't drink, they didn't smoke. I think those were the biggest health impacts on me from my parents. My dad died when he was about 85 and my mum's still going strong. So I guess they were quite healthy, really.
So where do you think that sense of, health and fitness came from if it wasn't necessarily from them?
I don't really know. Only that it's just a drive that I have and an innate feeling. Perhaps it's my destiny to share it with the world.
Well, I think it is. And actually, talking of drive, one of the things I really know about you, Trish, is that once you get into something, you have incredible drive. And I know that you actually used to be a powerlifter, didn't you? And you also used to compete. So why did you get into that? And what was it like being in that kind of competition?
Well, I got into it because I had to do a qualification to be able to work in a gym where I was working. And the guy who took the qualification was the British Women's Olympic weightlifting coach. And I had never heard of it before that moment. And he obviously was on the lookout for any potential. So he saw me and he said, "Oh, why don't you try this?" So he gave me a slip of paper with the name of a club on. And I just thought, oh, okay, I'll just try it. I didn't even know what it was. And I turned up at this club that would have been in about 1985. And it really was spit and sawdust. It was freezing. There was a little Caligas heater in the corner. The coach was about my size, 5 foot. He had a little roll-up fag in his mouth. And everybody in the gym were boys and men.
Wow. And did you immediately like it?
Yeah, I loved it. I loved the technique of it because it's very technical. It's not actually powerlifting. It was Olympic weightlifting, which is snatch, clean and jerk, which are very, very technical moves. And I just loved learning the technique of it. I wasn't really bothered about the strength or the competing. It was just mastering the technique for me to start with anyway.
So you started with what kind of weight and ended up lifting how much?
Started with a broomstick. Oh, I've still got a broomstick. No. Started with a broomstick, and then my final weight, because I retired in 94, would have been about a 60 kilo snatch, 90 kilo clean and jerk. And I weighed about 52 kilos in those days.
Wow. You did compete though, didn't you?
Yeah.
So tell me about that.
I was in the British team for about 6 or 7 years. It was quite at the beginning of the women's sport. It wasn't in the Olympics in those days, so it was quite novelty. We travelled all over Europe. I didn't go all over the world, but we travelled all over Europe to places like Bulgaria and Romania and places where it was quite popular for women. And I had an amazing time with the British team. Amazing bunch of women.
Incredible. And I know that you later married Johnny Tenn, and Johnny was into trampolining, wasn't he?
He was, yes. That's how we met, actually. I applied for a little advert in the local paper saying trampoline coach wanted, and the rest is history.
I love it. Do you lift weights now, Trish?
I've started again. When I retired 94, I really didn't do anything, to be honest. I lived on borrowed time for quite a while until I really realized that I was sort of slipping and my body was changing. And then I just did it for fun. I never lifted heavy again, apart from one time in my life where I fancied having a go at CrossFit. I don't know if you've heard of CrossFit, which is a very dynamic new sport. But that was about 10 years ago, and I got into it very quickly, and I didn't follow all my advice that I give people, and I managed to snap my Achilles tendon in two. So I was still thinking I was a 20-year-old going back into heavy training, and my body was not. So I learnt my lesson from that, and I just lift light to medium weights now.
Oh my goodness, that must have hurt so much.
Didn't really hurt, actually, because it just snapped in two. It's like there was no feeling. I didn't even realise what I'd done until I went to the A&E, and they said, your Achilles tendon, which is the big strong one at the back of the heel, had just gone. There was no Achilles tendon there anymore, just two ends.
Wow.
So, but the body is amazing. I mean, I had really great physio. That was painful, the physio and the reconstruction, because I didn't have an operation. They just put you in plaster and butt the two ends together, and your body performs miracles.
It is miraculous, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So I know that you actually now specialize in working with older people. So I'm just really curious, when you say older people, what age is that? And why do you specialize, with that particular client group?
Okay. So older can mean anything, really. I mean, we're in our 60s, approaching 60. That isn't really old anymore, is it? But the majority of people I teach are in their 80s, I would say. Some in their 90s. Majority in the 80s. And the reason I got into it was a long time ago, about 25 years ago, actually, where I met an amazing doctor in London, where I worked in London, called Dr. Susie Dinan. And she was researching the impact of exercise on older people back in the late 80s, this was. And she became my mentor, really, and she opened that whole world up to me. She was committed that the research that was coming out was getting transferred to people on the street, if you like. So I really believe that all people are entitled to safe and effective exercise that works and produces the results. At any age, any health condition, exercise can produce great results for people. And I'm committed that everyone is entitled to that.
Brilliant. So there's hope for anyone watching who's thinking, well, I've left it a bit late. That's good news.
Yeah. As I say, it's never too late to start, and it's always too early to give up.
Great. Yeah.
Go on, Trish. I was just going to say, if you think about it, about life expectancy, in the 1920s, which is about 100 years ago, women in the UK, guess what their life expectancy was? In 1920.
50.
No, well, it was 60, under 60. It's more like 55 for men, but for women, it was 60. If you think about that, you and me, our bodies would be on their last legs now, would be off to another place, wouldn't we? So if you think about it, the vast majority of humans haven't really learned how to be in an older body, in a body that's 70, in a body that's 80, in a body that's 100. I think there's a real gap there of people need to be prepared how to live in these older bodies, because we haven't got that human history behind us. We haven't got that, history, really. I mean, we've always had a few older people that have been exceptions, but for the vast majority of people, we need to be prepared to live in these older bodies. And exercise is just one of those keys to preparing ourselves.
I love the way that you've explained that, actually. And it's really amazing. I don't know about you, but the older I get, It just seems to happen so quickly. The older I get, the quicker the years seem to go. So that's really great news. So listen, we all know, don't we, Trish, that exercise is important, but unless we've actually got some sort of structure, a lot of times it's overlooked, isn't it? Because there's a lot going on, and we get interrupted and things happen. Why is it so important, apart from the reasons you've already stated? Why is exercise so very important?
Well, my particular passion is strength training for older people. Why that is so important? If you think about what you were just saying about the context of life slipping away, it's a context of slippage. I call it slippage. When we're 30, between 30 and 80, that 50 years, we have a slippage of leg strength. Guess how much leg strength we lose between those years?
Oh my gosh, I have no idea.
Half. This is just through the course of everyday life. This is no one special, just the general public. But from 30 to 80, you lose half your leg strength. And as you said, you don't really notice those years going by. But just imagine if that happened overnight. You went to bed tonight, you woke up in the morning, you went to sit up, stand up out of bed, and you've only got one leg because you've lost half your leg strength. Imagine how hard everyday tasks would be if you lost half your leg strength. But the great news is that all the research shows that there are no age limits to regaining your strength. They've done research with 90-year-old women in nursing homes, and it's taken 12 weeks, 3 times a week, to gain their extra leg back. So if you imagine how easy it is to stand up for an older person who's regained half their leg, they doubled their leg strength. Everyday tasks become much easier and their quality of life improves so much.
Oh my goodness, that's incredibly inspiring. I'm just delighted at that news, I have to say. But I know that, I hear people saying, when they get older, they want to downsize and, their fancy little bungalow. But obviously, bungalows don't have stairs, do they? So what happens then when you don't have those stairs? Because I imagine that just walking up and down the stairs makes a massive difference to physical fitness and strength.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If you can do it, just keep on doing it. The less you do, the less you can do. And it's a downward spiral. And as you say, as you get older, you've got these stories about growing older. Oh, it's time to put my feet up. I should take things easier. I should get someone to help me with that, which is all fair, but the less you do, the less you can do. And I always say to my clients, if you are able to get down onto the floor and stand back up safely on your own, do it once a day, because you never know when you're going to need that skill. And if you don't practice the skill, you think, oh, I'm not getting back onto the floor now because it's a bit stiff, a bit achy. If you don't practice that every day for the rest of your life, you just suddenly wake up one day and you won't be able to do it. And you'll take a tumble in the garden. You'll think, oh, I'll just get up and see how I am. And you can't get up off the floor. I've heard this story so many times. So you're quite right. Using the stairs is a brilliant example of your environment causing you to keep doing these things, to keep your strength.
Wow, that's an alarming thought, being, laid out in the garden.
Yeah, I mean, the opposite is true from building strength. They've done studies where they've told even young people to sit in bed for 10 days and do nothing. And they've worked out 10 days of bed rest is equivalent of 10 years of aging. But you're just literally not using your muscles.
That is terrifying.
So when you're sat on that sofa, Jules, and you think, oh, I'll just sit there a little bit longer. It's time to get up.
I hear you, Trish Tenn. So how important would you say it is, Trish, to find exercise you actually like?
It is very important. I mean, I recommend a lot of things to people. I ask them, what do you love doing? Especially for heart health. A lot of people just love dancing. They love walking, things like that. But for strength training, you do really have to do particular things. But shall I just show you something, Jules?
I would love that.
So people think strength training is going to the gym. I've got to buy dumbbells. I've got to buy the outfit. I've got to buy a membership. But strength training can be just something something simple at home, something that you do every day anyway. So it's not going to put anything different, but you just do it a different way. So let's just show you this. I hope you can see my chair here.
And
So this is basically sitting up, sitting down, standing up every day. We do this about 60, 70 times a day, usually in the day. But what we find is most people, as they get older, they tend to come down and they plop. And when you plop, you're not using your leg muscles. So you're just relaxing into the chair. You also find if you're on a lower chair, or if you're feeling a bit stiff, you start to use your arms. Oh, just get up, and you're using your arms. So the more you use your arms, the weaker your legs are getting. The more you plop, the weaker your legs are getting. So we just turn this everyday movement into a strength exercise, and all we do is we take the arms out and we start to lower under control, super slow. And as we get stronger, we hover. I call this my public toilet hover, you know, it's very useful sometimes if you don't want to sit. So just think about that, George. You need some leg strength next time you go to the public toilet. So I'm using my leg strength. And if you were doing it with me, Jules, which I thought you might, but you would feel a slight burning sensation in these thigh muscles. That is the feeling of strength training. So we lower ourselves down, and I can feel my thighs glowing with the work.
amazing. I imagine though, to start with, Trish, there might be a little bit of plopping.
There is always a bit of plopping, yes.
Yeah, but we're not talking about on the toilet here. We're talking about sitting your feet.
So if you couldn't get down, say you had sore knees, you would just hold on to the chair and you would take it as low as you could. It might just start off like that.
And are you actually holding your stomach muscles in as well? What, you know, or is it literally just your leg strength?
Particularly focus on the stomach muscles unless someone wants to build their core, but with every exercise you are using your core muscles. But for that, it's enough for people to focus on their legs. I want them to feel the slight warmth, burning, maybe even a little bit of shaking in their leg muscles, because people don't know what strength training is. You know, I've done hundreds of talks to thousands of women, and I get them to just go like this. How many people think this is strength training? Half the people put their hands up because they think they're training their arms, their strength. I said, if you can do this more than 10 times, it's not strength. Imagine you are holding a can of beans in each side. Is that strength training? No, because you can probably do it more than 5 times. Some people might not be able to. So hold a bottle of wine in each hand. How many times could you do that? Oh, probably about 20 times. Then it's not strength training. Okay, hold a full watering can in each side. Oh my goodness, I can only do that about 3 times. That is strength training. The other stuff is not strength training. You are not going to get the results that we've said, getting an extra leg back, if you just do this 100 times. And people don't know that, and it's part of my mission to educate people in that area so they can get the results that they deserve.
And also, they don't have to go to the gym. They've got those things around them. So it's all beginning to make sense now, Trish. Thank you so much. So how much would you say that mindset makes a difference?
Amazing. I mean, as I get more and more into it, I think this is one of the main resources that people have. People have inherited old stories of what it is to age, as I said before, and I think part of my mission now really is to help people create new stories around aging. We need a new story for humanity, you know. And if you interview people who are 100 plus, most of them do have very positive aging stories, but a lot of people don't. So, I mean, we're going to have this extra 30, 40 years to live. What are we going to do with it? We need to create a future for ourselves to live into and be healthy and strong for that period. I forgot your question, Jules. What was it?
No, you've answered it, and that's just absolutely brilliant. So,
mindset, that was it, mindset.
Yeah, no, you've answered it. Anything else you wanted to say about that?
Only that I experience. I see people coming to my classes saying, you know, really being negative. Oh, I've had such a bad week, and you know, you see those people whittle away in front of you. They don't, you know, a lot of them don't actually last long, you know, and then you'll see someone who comes in, they might have had the same week as the other person, but they're like, oh, you know, it's okay. And, you know, just a different mindset, like you said. And it's, those are the people that are live long and die quick. That's one of the, there's a book called that by someone, and I loved it. It's like living as long as you can, and when it's your time to go, you just go. So I've had people at my classes who've been there the week before, pumping, having fun, laughing, and then where's Dorothy? Oh, she passed away. Yeah, she lived full right up to the end. She didn't have years of frailty. No one should become frail due to being inactive. She didn't have years of suffering. And I think, obviously there are exceptions, but I think it is possible for a lot of people to do that.
Wonderful. And I guess it's in society, isn't it? I hear so many times, oh, well, you're not getting any younger. Well, it's the slippery slope, you know. Oh, well, you look great for, and then they mention how old you are, and you know, it's kind of everywhere, isn't it? But I mean, it starts with people complaining about the weather. It's all pervasive, isn't it? But actually, it's about, mind your mind. What are you saying? Are you going to spend your life complaining and talking about what you can do or can't do? You know, when you talk about what you can do, then that's when, you know, life starts to change, when you take those actions, isn't it?
Yeah.
So what has challenged you generally in your life? What's the thing that's challenged you the most, Trish?
Speaking up and being heard.
And look at you now. You are an inspirational speaker. That's so inspiring. Brilliant. Okay.
I think sometimes the biggest challenges that you break through give you the greatest rewards, don't they?
Absolutely. Yeah. So you were just determined to break through that. You weren't going to give up and say, no, I really am that person that is too afraid to speak up. Brilliant. I love it. So what would you like to say to people? Or no, what would you like people to say about you when you're no longer on this planet?
Oh, well, it's definitely around something like, she opened my eyes to a whole new world that I jumped into and changed my life.
Fantastic.
I hear stories, you know, stories after my class that makes me smile. You know, there's one lady, she was like, I'm always the last person to stand up at church when we stand to sing the hymns. And then like 4 weeks later, she said, I was the first person up today. And that was her goal, you know, just to be known for that. Or another lady said, she's a very posh lady and she entertains a lot. She has a tray of tea and teapots and cups and sugar and milk jug and everything. And she said to me the other day, she goes, I got my tray from the kitchen, I picked it up, I walked into the room, I bent down carefully, I put it on the coffee table and sat down without a plonk. She was so proud of herself. So things like that.
Brilliant. I mean, that's it, isn't it? It's not just that we increase longevity and our experience of life becomes much more enjoyable. It's also that feeling of that proudness, that feeling of achievement, that feeling that actually we've got some say in how life goes. I absolutely love that. So before we go, Trish, it's been an absolute joy. Before we go, is there anything else you'd really like to say?
No, just that I love my life. I'm glad I found my destiny, my calling, and I'm really excited about the future.
Wonderful. I'm going to be posting the link so that people can find out about you, go straight to you underneath this video. But all it remains for me to say is, Trish Tenn, thank you so very much.
Oh, thank you, Jules. It's been a pleasure.